And we're live. Welcome everybody here to this again live edition Lakers Lounge. I am Anthony Irwin. That is Harrison Fagan of SB Nation, of Silver Screen and Roll, of Terrible Hats. We have a ton to talk about. You and I, Harrison, haven't podcasted since the roster came together, so we're going to be talking about that. We were going to double check on our bingo cards, but both of us misplaced all of them?
I'm pretty sure mine is on my actual computer. I just am not using that right now. So,
Yeah.
We'll find it.
We don't have to get into why you aren't using your actual computer.
Yeah.
I do not have mine because I apparently wrote my free agent notes on top of it. I wonder if I hit undo often enough.
Go back in version history. And
I wonder if I could.
Yeah.
So we will. So I will be scouring the notes app.
We can figure that out off air.
Yeah. But yeah, we have the main topic here that we're going to be talking about here on this July 4th. You guys thought that we would be taking this Independence Day off, but you thought wrong.
No, we are an independent podcast, and so we are having our own Independence Day.
Exactly.
It's like Small Business Saturday. This is the day for independent podcasts.
Damian Lillard decided to run from the grind, so we figured we would slide into that niche of never ever running from the grind unless we are laid off. We are going to today talk about taxes. How exciting is that? Taxes. Woo-hoo!
Nothing more fitting that we can talk about on the 4th of July than taxes. Okay? This is a very special 4th of July edition. Anthony is going to throw the Lakers tee into the harbor in protest of their tax policies.
The Lakers threw Mo Bamba and they threw Malik Beasley and Lonnie Walker into the bay.
Yeah, the Long Beach Tea Party. I don't know, that's the nearest port I think that I can. No, there's a port in Los Angeles, I'm sure.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I just know there's a big one in Long Beach. So yeah, Mo Bamba is currently strapped to a catapult, and they just fired him off the Long Beach pier. To protest the new CBA. Sorry, Mo. It's it's nothing personal.
They said go, Bamba. So we are going to be talking about that. Harrison has some general takes on the offseason thus far that he wanted to give because again, he hasn't podcasted with me. I don't know if he podcasted elsewhere since I would imagine. So we haven't talked. We haven't spoken since.
Yeah, no. Well, I'm not like you. I don't like my skin does not burn. When I'm not firing off takes into the ether. So I think the way we treat that is
literally found a different platform to send different takes.
Yeah.
I'm giving people double the NBA takes between Twitter and Blue Sky. Blue Sky's been fun. It's kind of like right now. It's like feels almost like a big group message.
Yeah. Right now
that we're just talking to each other, almost directly talking to each other. That has been fun. So I am going to start here, and I'm going to try not to get too far into the weeds. Because talking about taxes is really difficult to not make dry. So I'm going to try to not overcook this pork chop and see how well this goes. All right. Essentially, what the Lakers could have done in this offseason was run back almost the identical roster that they had last year. Maybe swap out Dennis Schroeder, bring in. They could have kept Taurean Prince. They could have continued to make at the number that he's at. They could have kept him. Would not have brought Gabe Vincent in because he was signed using the non-taxpayer mid-level exception. So, I have found myself as I've been watching all of this go down. Given the Lakers' options here, I've found myself wondering and asking. I've been asking around. The Lakers will never openly to admit we really want to get under the tax. They're going to find some other way to look at it and some other way to spin it as they have to this point. And they're going to point to financial flexibility, but they actually are less flexible this way than they would have been had they paid taxes. So, I have wondered aloud if this is what the Lakers' intentions are, even if indirect or even if it wasn't their top priority, was to get under the tax, avoid the repeater tax, especially. And if so, I want to ask Harrison and ask you guys in the comments also how you feel about a team that was just in the Western Conference Finals prioritizing in any way whatsoever getting under the tax and making this team cheaper than it was last year when they went to the Western Conference Finals. So a ton that we're going to get into. But yeah, essentially, Harrison, if I just told you that the Lakers would have gone into next year with a rotation of they would have kept Austin Reeves, they would have kept D'Angelo Russell, they would have had Lonnie Walker and Malik Beasley as backup guards. They still would have had Jalen Hood Schifino, and they still would have had Maxwell Lewis. At wing, they would have still had Rui Hachimura. They still would have had Taurean Prince, and they still would have had Cam Reddish because he was signed at the veterans minimum. Also, still would have had LeBron, AD, Vando, and Max Christie. They still would have had Jackson Hayes, and because of the number that it looks like they're going to be able to bring Mo Bamba in, they would have had him, whether they kept him at the minimum or if they would have guaranteed his salary. They would have been they would have been a more expensive team. They would have been right up against the second apron. But talent-wise, compare that team. But I think that's the place to start with this that makes it the least dry, is just talking about the talent on that roster compared to the talent that the Lakers have right now. Is there enough for you? Is there enough of a difference to you to make it worthwhile to get under the tax?
So, I think really quickly, I want to address two things. Number one, to kill Gary in the comments, I believe you can start the season with 13. I think 13 is like the minimum in season.
No. They as part of the new CBA, they're starting with 14. You have to start with 14.
Okay. Well, that's see, we're all still learning here. So, and also the Lakers would have been hard capped anyway, I believe, had they used the biannual on Taurean Prince. And I think it's important to note that, we did hear that the Lakers wanted to avoid the second apron, that they sort of had walking orders to avoid that. So, mission accomplished on that front, by signing Taurean Prince, even without the mid-level, they would have hard capped themselves at the end of the first apron, which again, if you cross it, has less punitive things than crossing the second apron, where you lose buyout guys and you lose the ability to aggregate in trades and super taxes and all this sort of crazy things. Start potentially losing draft picks down the line, all that stuff.
Not losing, but pushing them back in the draft.
Pushing them back. You lose draft positioning. So
and also to be clear, the Lakers, if they would have used their biannual, they would have been hard capped. But so long as you use your taxpayer mid-level exception and do not exceed that by even $1, you avoid being hard capped. So what the Lakers would have done is sign Taurean Prince to the number that he's at and use their non-taxpayer mid-level. And I think they still would have had $1.5 million or whatever left over in that non-taxpayer. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they left a little bit off the mid-level of Gabe Vincent, which I think is important. That's something the team has also traditionally done with their mid-level signings, is leave that extra little bit so that they can, potentially outbid someone on the buyout market, which, by virtue of not being in the second apron, they can get to. So, but to answer your original question as far as the roster, and sorry, JD, about getting the Port of Los Angeles.
That is such a JD comment.
Yeah. So I think... I think this version of the roster is better, and the part that I have struggled, I understand your point about was it worth keeping Beasley and Bamba around even at their past numbers so that you would have all that money. It was almost 26 million in expiring contract, 26, 27.
Well, 26 and a half, I believe.
Yeah, so 26, 27 million in expiring contracts. That potentially would have been worthwhile at the deadline. I think that what we have seen from the amount of interest or lack thereof in both of those guys, even as free agents that teams can sign.
Both guys are on minimums.
Without giving up anything, I don't think that the value was there with them as expiring contracts. Maybe at midseason, like we saw with the Russell Westbrook deal, that would have been different. You see some teams are out of the hunt, or they're looking to sort of get themselves out of the hunt, as in the case with the Jazz, and, take off some veterans off their roster. Maybe having those expiring deals would have helped you get a helpful player, down the line. But I think for this season going into the year, they're better positioned now. And it's hard for me to, get too upset about them not keeping those guys when we don't even know for sure that they could have flipped them. And I think we do know for sure that they weren't going to make an impact in the playoffs. And the other thing we don't know for sure is that the Lakers would have been willing to even attach their 29, first round pick to those guys to get a meaningful upgrade, because you weren't going to get an upgrade just for savings, at midseason. You were going to have to attach picks for that. And we don't know that the Lakers necessarily would have done that. So, to get Vincent as a Schroeder upgrade and to get Taurean Prince as, like a Troy Brown Jr. upgrade, I feel pretty good about what the Lakers did. I'm also not surprised even a little bit that they're like, well, we're going to sign that 14th spot, but we're going to leave the 15th open for flexibility. And, maybe we can make an uneven trade, or maybe we can, sign a buyout guy or whatever, because those are the reasons they always give for leaving that roster spot open, and that smart teams traditionally always give to the media for leaving those roster spots open, because then it's not like, well, it's expensive to sign that 15th guy. Like, have you seen how much of a tax that is on, once you're in the first apron? And we're in the repeater, so I think they're going to try and remain as little in the repeater as possible. And they're not going to be able to avoid it, provided
to start
they
the season
one more vet min guy to start the season.
Yeah, so, I think that's an important note to make here. When I say, are they trying to avoid the tax, it's not to start the season. I asked Aaron this, and I guess I could have asked Pincus, because those guys are my two kind of like CBA nerds that I lean on. But Aaron said that so long as you get under the tax by season end, kind of like, so long as you write off enough stuff while you're doing your taxes that your number looks, a different way. When the Lakers would avoid tax penalties if they get under the tax. So one thing that I'm really looking for here, and like, all right, an example
it's like
of
a D'Lo trade that takes back slightly less money.
Yeah, if they take just over $4 million back less than they send out, right? They get under the tax, and now you're looking at a very different no tax bill. The other one that I'm looking at here, right, and this is for those of you who were wondering why the Lakers only have Jackson Hayes as their big depth, right? My running theory here is that they wanted to see Colin Castleton in some of these summer league games and maybe get some people excited.
Looked decent yesterday.
He looked way better than the guy that started. That's for sure. But and we'll talk. Do you want to talk summer league basketball?
No, that was all the summer league talk we needed.
Christie did look really good. Christie looks like
all the summer league talk we needed for one game. We can start to talk more about summer league once there's a couple games. We do this. I promise you, no one wants a 15-minute podcast on our thoughts on summer league game one.
Yeah. But so like an example of what the Lakers could be doing to, again, stay as low into that tax as possible, right, is you see Castleton play, you see what he does out there on the court, and if he does just enough to show that like he belongs out there, they wind up not signing either Tristan or Mo Bamba, and they go into a center rotation next year of AD, Jackson Hayes, and Colin Castleton. And that would save, depending on the contract that you sign Castleton to, that would save upwards of $2 million, right, against their tax bill. And that is that much less work that the Lakers would have to do mid-season to get under that number. Another example, but this was never going to happen, but if they wouldn't have opted in to Jared Vanderbilt's number, right, they would have avoided the tax. Like that's so. Like it's. I'm not saying that there's.
So the amount of you're a little mad now just on principle that they're avoiding taxes. Like
I wouldn't be alone.
That millionaires should pay taxes, and so you're just offended by the fact that the Lakers are using shady accounting to avoid extra taxes and such on principle. But could you imagine the reaction online if they had cut Jared Vanderbilt? They're like, well, we added a lot of guys in free agency. Sorry, no, we just want to keep this roster spot open. We think we could probably replace him with a min guy.
Yeah. Could you? I don't think I would have handled that very well.
You would have actually started your own, you would have done the Austin Tea Party. It would have been you would have rebelled against this tyranny out there. Just stage. You would have done the version of the Staples Center, protest.
Mm-hmm. So, in that case, so right now, I know that I'm in the minority for a couple of reasons, right? A, almost nobody knows the number that the Lakers need to get under, and all of the stuff that they are doing to get to this too, right? B, no, like, I don't want to sound so. This is going to sound so lame, but the mainstream like beat reporters haven't talked about this yet, right? Like, again, that sounds so lame. It's like
I've talked about it.
The lamestream media isn't telling you this.
Actually, this is going to do really well on YouTube if you put a video of you making that exact face, or no, maybe me in the hat, and it's like the fact the lamestream media doesn't want you to know about the Lakers tax situation.
So like those are the two like yeah.
You know, the classic YouTube
Jeannie
face.
Buss doesn't want to pay her taxes. Yeah. So I was so like those are the two reasons that like, you know, this isn't being quite talked about as much and why I'm in the minority of it. The other part of it too is
there's a third reason, and it's that the team got better and people are excited about the team getting better.
Yeah,
and
right.
They're not like,
and
well, look, like, you know, they're not as angry as you are primed to be at every single opportunity that the Lakers don't just spend money for money's sake. Because I think it offends you on principle that they didn't just keep those guys around just to potentially have the option of trading them.
Well, think of the Lakers as like the NBA's billionaires, right? Like in terms of the way that they generate revenue.
Should we?
No, not like Jeannie. I'm not saying Jeannie specifically. I'm not, you know, or the Buss family specifically. I'm saying like the Lakers, right? The Lakers in their ability to generate revenue, they have their TV deal, right? They're always among the leaders in jerseys sold or you know, merchandise sold. Their tickets are more expensive than the you know, most NBA teams. Like it costs. I think I saw. This was a couple of years ago, but for like a family of 4 to go to a Laker game, it costs upwards of like $1,000, if not a couple $1,000.
Is this just your estimate? You have a family of 4. Was this just you going on SeatGeek and you're saying this was a study? Or sorry,
no. I swear to God,
I don't know who our sponsors are. That's my bad.
You can go to, you know. All right. While you're talking next, I'm going to Google this and
Okay.
The Lakers were. I think it's them and the Knicks are the two most expensive NBA viewing experiences in the league, right? So like the Lakers do, they print money, man, and
okay, well, but the thing that you have to consider, like, I understand, yes, that's it, you know, but the Lakers have made it clear time and time again that this is, you know, whether you like this or you don't like this is the reality. This is not a toy to them. This is their this is, you know, we make the small business jokes or whatever. This is not like Steve Ballmer, you know, where it's like, hey, this is my fantasy basketball team. This is my extremely high stakes fantasy basketball league, and the version for him of paying, like, you know, outbidding everyone on, you know, a quarterback or a running back or, you know, whatever, like in fantasy football, and he's like, I'm bidding $200 for this guy just because, like, I really want to win this league. I'm really competitive. That's his version of like being towards the second apron by, you know, they cut him now, so this is a bad example, but like acquiring Eric Gordon last year or whatever it is. Like, they're going to do that stuff. For the Lakers, it's, you know, a matter of, do the Buss siblings want an extra, you know, $1 million or $2 million in profits or whatever, or do they want to sign Mo Bamba for the 14th roster spot, you know?
Yeah. Here's my comeback to that, and this isn't necessarily fair, but the Buss siblings have done zero personally to have the privilege of owning the Lakers. They were born Buss siblings. This isn't like, it'd be one thing if Jim Buss was like hardlining, hey, this is my main source of income. I did build this thing up to where it is right now. I am taking a harder line stance on this. And by the way, like when I was younger, again, this is like one of those things that when I was, you know, it's not that I was like up to date on NBA tax policy when I was like 10 years old or whatever, but like it was kind of a reputation that the Lakers had that like they didn't spend in ways that you maybe thought they would. Given the way that they were generating revenue. And that was even back when Jim Buss owned the team. And back then, you know what? Like I said,
you mean
this
Jerry.
was his. What else?
Jerry
Oh,
always
yeah,
spent. Yeah,
Jerry.
always
Yeah.
spent. No, because the luxury taxes were less punitive then. Jerry was always willing to, pay up, but
Well,
it was a different thing at the time. It didn't cost
yes and
as
no.
much, and it was not as prohibitive to go
Yeah.
into that tax and outbid the teams, especially based on, like at the time, I don't know what the owners' net worths or whatever during Jerry Buss's tenure, but the Lakers were by far one of the most profitable NBA teams, and so it was a little, with the penalties are a little bit less, with it being good for business and the margins and them having higher margins than those other NBA teams, they were more able to kind of flex that financial muscle back then.
Right. But even you tweet. All right. You can always tell who like the older term Laker fans are on Twitter, right, by their avatars, and you'll see like a Lakers giraffe, right, and you'll see, you'll see,
They have me
Sadale
as their
Threet,
avatar?
or exactly. And like if I mention their spending, a lot of those fans will be like, "Oh yeah, this has always been the case. This is how it's just kind of always been." And I don't know if they mean dating back to Jerry or whatever, but like the Lakers, it's again, there's an explanation for it because it worked for them back then.
But business loan, they're a small family business, I think, according to the government.
Yeah,
the government told us. I mean, they gave it back, but the government was willing to declare them a small family business.
But like, they are insular by nature, right? And their explanation for it is for the entirety of their existence has been, well, it works, right? And they have, and by the way, like they have seen even from that insular culture, insulated culture, they have seen Pat Riley leave, they have seen Jerry West leave, right? And they've seen talent walk out the door that doesn't necessarily get replaced at the level of those guys, right? And in part, some of it, those guys wanted more credit, they wanted more power and all that stuff, but also like they might have wanted more money. The Knicks broke the bank for Pat Riley, and then the Miami did so even to a further extent when they gave him ownership stake in the Miami Heat. The Lakers have, they believe in like their version, like a downside to Lakers exceptionalism is thinking that anybody who wears Lakers stuff is exceptional because they wear Lakers stuff, right? And I think to a certain extent, like that
to be
dates
fair,
back.
in many cases, historically,
They're right, yeah, yeah, you're right.
There's a reason for it. It's not like this is not Clippers exceptionalism,
Right. Well, but the thing is though, is anybody that has worn Lakers stuff since Jerry West as good as Jerry West? Has anybody who has worn Lakers stuff since Pat Riley been as good as Pat Riley has been? Right.
Yeah.
And
Rambis.
Touche. All right, that'll do it for this
more
episode.
Titles than all those guys. I'm just saying. Nothing but respect for my shadow GM.
Right, but yeah, I don't know. And this is what I was talking about when I was saying like we were getting too far into the weeds.
Yeah,
I want to keep it like basketball wise. I think those rosters.
Let me flip this back on you. So
Yeah.
because I wanted to transition us back to that too. So do you agree the Lakers got better? I promise this is not like me legal line of questioning trying to entrap you into something. You believe they got better?
I think like slightly better. Not like championship altering, but I think they are like slightly better, mostly lateral.
So for people that don't understand why you care then about like the tax thing, like why does this matter to you functionally for the basketball team? Not just from like you believe that you should always keep contracts around, you could potentially flip them, whatever. How does this impact the basketball team in a way that is bothersome to you?
Because like let's say Austin Reeves or Max Christie don't take steps forward. Let's say Rui Hachimura doesn't take a step forward and play at a commensurate level that you should at $17 million a year, right? And growing up from there.
But, all are reasonable outcome. Like that is entirely
happens.
Possible. It's possible that Austin does not come back. Austin was incredible last year. It's possible he does not come back better than he was last year.
Yeah. He's at an age where like you do start kind of sort of platooning.
Yeah, I mean, there will be little skills improvements, I'm sure, but for the most part, I think last year's Austin is probably a reasonable outcome.
Yeah,
for what
and he would be
from
really good. Like if he is that Austin, that's a really good player. But if he isn't, if he takes even a slight step back, then the Lakers just don't have the tools to make up for it, right? If Max Christie isn't ready to be the backup shooting guard, which right now he is slated to be, a second-round player is slated to be your backup shooting guard. And by the way, he looked really good in yesterday's summer league game. So maybe he is, but if he isn't quite, then you don't really, you no longer have the parachute that was Lonnie Walker. You no longer have the parachute. Like, you say what you will about Malik Beasley, and I couldn't stand watching him play. I'm going to be honest. It was brutal to watch that guy play, especially
it was
when
fun
it was
when they were going in. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It was the early after the trade Malik Beasley was pretty fun to watch. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
finally Lakers got a shooter that runs around. Teams pay attention to him. He's not afraid to let it fly. This is great. And then the playoffs happened, and he stopped
like a week
them.
later happened.
Yeah,
That was fun
enough.
for about a week.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh shit. But like say all of that about Malik as you want, but having him versus not having him, and importantly, not having him as an asset that could go out. Teams are not lining up to employ Malik Beasley at $16 million. Clearly, right? We saw this offseason, but
teams were lining up to sign him for the veterans minimum, though. So
yeah, like he's an NBA player,
Yeah.
and you combine him and you combine with Mo Bamba, and you can bring back a $30 million player, and if Max isn't quite ready, if Austin doesn't take another big step forward, if Rui doesn't take a big step forward, if Gabe Vincent doesn't necessarily fit, if Jackson Hayes sucks as he has for his entire career to this point, and you need a backup big, like the Lakers would have been able to turn non-rotation players in Mo Bamba and Malik Beasley into an impact player, and that's a big net positive there for you. And that not being an option, like again, this isn't a principal thing. That is a practical thing that the Lakers do not have at their disposal this year. And again, I am not saying that they are screwed. I'm saying they're screwed if those guys don't take a step forward. Those guys could. They probably will. I really believe in Austin Reeves, and the Lakers really believe in Austin Reeves' ability to get paid and continue to improve.
And he does actually work his ass off, even by
He
NBA
is.
standards, to just like get better. Yeah.
He absolutely does. Same goes for Rui Hachimura, right? The stuff that I said about him, him really like relishing and being a Laker and all of that stuff, that is going to lend itself to improvement and work ethic and stuff like that. So he might really, those guys might be the impetus for the Lakers' improvement this year. However, at 24, I believe they're both 24 years old.
Probably going to be a significant upgrade. Especially, I think Vincent over Schroeder is probably going to be a significant upgrade.
That's where your argument has its most plausibility, is Gabe Vincent.
Yeah.
If basically you're saying, and you said this in Slack, and I'll let you, and I can get out of the way, but like make the Gabe Vincent part of this argument.
So, I mean, to be honest, I think you and Sedano sort of made it yesterday. I was listening to that pod a little bit. I didn't finish it, but I was listening to it a little bit before we got on here just to sort of catch myself up on what you've been saying and your kind of stuff so that I was ready to fire back and destroy all of your arguments.
Yeah.
It's opposition research. But, I think Vincent, I think the best point that you made is he's a guy that defenses are actually going to want to stick with. Whether, I know he shot badly in the regular season last year, but guys are going to, we've seen guys that have a rep as shooters, guys are going to close out to them whether or not they're making it, and he certainly has a rep as that. Maybe they're not going to close out to him with the degree of threat they did in Miami, because we've seen like the Lakers offense is frankly a little less creative, and also that you're not going to leave LeBron or AD to go rotate out and like make sure that you're keeping a body as close to Gabe Vincent as possible, but it'll help. It's an extra foot of space for those guys to operate in and stuff like that. We also look, I was a Dennis defender for all of last year. I think he really helped the Lakers. I think I value him certainly a lot more than you did, but Vincent is also an upgrade in the sense that he's not Darvin's guy. And so theoretically, he's not going to get minutes at the end of games or in situations where it's not warranted necessarily, or we at least don't know that yet. There's not going to be sort of the, like a security blanket aspect to Dennis, sort of like we saw with Frank and Avery Bradley. Like, coach have these guys, and maybe Vincent ends up being that, but I think he's a better fit for that kind of role. If he's Darvin's security blanket, I like the way he fits really well with all of the Lakers' best players, and I think he'll help a lot. I think Prince is, one of my friends described him as the most average player in the NBA. Like he doesn't do anything good, but he doesn't really do anything bad either. He's just kind of, there and perfect, and like in his role, he is exactly what he is, and he's not going to make you tear your hair out necessarily. And so I think the Lakers got better. And to be honest, I'm not going to, and I like what they did in terms of maintaining future flexibility by, signing all these guys to fairly reasonable, movable contracts. There is still the doomsday scenario of, I believe that Rui and D'Lo works for Kyrie under the cap.
Oh, God.
I'm just, yeah.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there, at the money that those guys make. But I think they're reasonably financially flexible moving forward. I don't think that it was realistic to expect, the Lakers to keep both Beasley and Bamba around all season just in the hopes that they could make a trade with their expirings and attach the pick and all that. And so that's kind of why, I'm not surprised that the Lakers are trying to avoid as much of the repeater tax as possible, given their past actions, given how we've seen them treat finances. And I still think that the reason that I'm even less annoyed by it is that I think that even under those kind of walking orders and marching constraints, I still think that they got better.
Yeah,
And I agree with Benji, the comment that you put on screen, that continuity is a thing. And having these guys for all season, to me, is better than trying to flip, playing out the string all year with guys that you don't think are necessarily going to be there and then flip them and try and adapt on the fly, even if it could, in their cases, lead to a meaningful upgrade. I understand your point, and I understand what you wanted the team to do, but I'm not surprised that the Lakers didn't do it, given their past actions, and I still think they improved, even under sort of that, constraint.
So there's I think a little bit of confusion here, right? Team Money says what Anthony doesn't realize is if we kept Bamba and Beasley at $26 million total, that means no Schroeder, no Vincent, and no Prince. We could have brought Lonnie back at say $5 million. That isn't quite true.
I don't know if you could have gotten Prince and Schroeder, because under your scenario where you're saying they don't
you pick one of those three
by using the taxpayer mid-level,
yeah. The Lakers would have been picking one of those three guys, and it would have been Prince, right? Because Vincent and Schroeder both signed.
Vincent wouldn't have been available for that.
Yeah, neither would have Schroeder, right? Schroeder signed for $13 million. He actually signed for more than.
Actually, fair point. I forgot Dennis got that much.
so it would have been Prince. They would have kept him using the taxpayer mid level, slightly less than it, given what he signed for. And they would have kept Lonnie. Although I guess Lonnie technically, because of how close they were to the second apron, that's where it really depended on the numbers that everybody else was brought back at, and it gets a little tight. But seeing as Lonnie signed for the minimum, and he signed for the minimum in Brooklyn because he's going to have a chance at minutes there. If the Lakers would have made him, given him a similar role to what he had last year, I think he would have taken the minimum here too. So they maybe could have brought back Lonnie. That's where it gets a little gray, but yeah, I think. And look, I want to be absolutely clear.
Game IV, Game 4 of Lonnie was incredible. That was amazing, and we'll always remember that ridiculous.
I'm gonna miss him, dude. I liked watching Lonnie Walker. I enjoyed the Lonnie Walker experience.
In the regular season, he not
fell out of the rotation.
Yeah, I mean he's fine rotation filler, but I to me, it's not that big of a loss.
Well, it depends. It depends on if Max isn't ready to be the backup shooting guard. If not, then yeah, Lonnie is good. Like that absence is really going to suck. If Max is ready for it, and again, I want to be clear. Everything that I saw from Max last year would indicate to me that he's going to be ready for this. Everything that we saw in that first game of Summer League, right? Now that he looks a little thicker, I would say, yeah, he's ready to be the backup shooting guard. Maybe even start, by the way. Like, it wouldn't shock me if by the end of the season, especially if the Lakers move D'Angelo Russell, that it's Reeves and Max who are starting there as your backcourt because of what I believe Max is capable of. And I also, like, the third thing, and this is the most important thing that I hope everybody takes away from this.
It's going to make you feel better, but I do think that there's a chance it's Cam Reddish.
Oh, I just got sick.
I'm just saying, you keep saying
good.
Max, and I'm like, are we sure he's going to be in the? And I was like, I pulled up the roster really quick to make sure. I'm like, okay, so Austin, D'Lo, Gabe Vincent, that's your three of your guards for sure.
Yeah.
And then I guess Max, might get some minutes, but I think also Cam Reddish is going to get a shot.
Well, he'll get a shot, and look, I want everybody to compete for minutes.
Probably will get a shot as well, but
he'll play like once a week, I think.
Yeah.
But I think, the final point here that I want to make, and I want to be 100% clear here, I'm not angry. I'm not like I'm not even disappointed.
This is what you always say when you're angry.
Well, I'm a parent, right? So I got to be careful when I say that I'm
Yeah.
angry. But like, you guys have seen me angry. When the Lakers let Alex Caruso walk for tax reasons, that was me angry. And I think it was like it was appropriately angry given what we have seen since, right? But in this case, it's more just kind of like, huh, and here's where I think it's worth this is why it's worth bringing all of this up is because if the Lakers truly believed in LeBron and Anthony Davis, do you think there's any scenario where they wouldn't spend appropriately and as much as they can possibly spend to keep as much talent either on the roster right now or open up their possibilities to get more talent down the line? Like if they
Yes,
honestly really
we just saw them do it like 2 years.
but they
after a
wouldn't.
title
No, they
run.
didn't. They no, well, but
The
even
one
there though,
season after
like
a title run, we just saw them do it.
it took them like half of last season to finally like commit to those guys. And even then
No,
it
I'm
wasn't
talking
with
about the summer before. I know nobody wants to bring up the guy in your background today, like all that much and whatever. Like it's all in the past, whatever. But they made a self-imposed financial choice, in the past with these two guys. And a year out from them winning a title and, months out from them looking like they were going to go on another run before, injuries hit. To me, I don't think that this really says anything about, their belief in LeBron and AD. I think that like this is just sort of they've shown us who they are.
Wait, I don't know what you mean there. I think like they have shown us who they are
If they think
with
that they
their
can get
lack of
better
belief in
without
Anthony
spending
Davis
more
in the
money,
past.
like they're
like
going to take those shots versus
all right, let's
spending
put it
like
this
crazy.
way. And this is this isn't quite apples to apples because of the amount of credit that Kobe had compared to the amount of credit that say LeBron has in the Lakers organization. But while Shaq and Kobe were together, or while Pau and Kobe were together, do you think there's any scenario that the Lakers hold on to a pick 5 years away from now?
It was different tax rules. It was different.
No, but
it was
like,
a different scenario.
Fine, you could take that into account too. But do you think honestly the Lakers would have cared about their future in the way that they have cared about their future with LeBron and AD, with
This
Kobe
ownership?
and whoever? Huh?
This ownership at these prices, yeah, probably.
Man, I don't know. I don't think so. I'm sorry. Like people in the comments, I'm legitimately curious. If it was Kobe that was at the end of his career, but still good enough to put you in a scenario or in a situation where you're 4 wins from a championship series that you would have been favored in, probably would have won going away. I think the Lakers were better than Miami last year. If Kobe was 4 wins away from a championship series, do you think the Lakers would have cared at all about taxes the following year?
If they felt like they could have gotten better
No way.
without spending the extra couple million, this ownership group, I do think so. Yeah, under
I don't
these
believe.
rules, yeah.
Given
I
what
think so.
how Genie feels about Kobe, you think no way. We're gonna probably have to agree to disagree.
All right.
No way. Kobe walks into her office
I
and says,
can only
"Why the
judge them
fuck are you
based on
caring
the
about a
eras that they've-
2029 pick?" And she'd be like, "You know what? Good question, Kobe. Why are we?" And then the pick would be gone.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I guess maybe it's a different scenario just because he was there so long and whatever. But
Yeah.
I don't. To me, it's still, it's an apples to oranges comparison, and I don't think that, my point is more that if this front office and ownership group felt like they could get better without spending too far into the repeater tax,
And they did.
Yeah, and
That's
they did.
to your point, they did.
Yeah. And, if they felt like they could do that without spending that extra money, like they're not, and that they could also, leak and have financial plausible deniability or real feasible plausible deniability in, we just, we really want to just keep flexibility and we want to have the ability to add
We
a
want to open
buyout guy
up
or
minutes
make an
for
uneven
max, and we
trade
want to do,
or, like if they're going to be able to sort of, both get better and then sort of have that plausible deniability on why they didn't spend or why they didn't keep certain guys around at inflated prices in the hopes of using their expiring contracts later. Like, I'm not surprised that that's what they went.
Yeah, and to Alexis's point, and I want to be clear, this isn't apples to apples, right? Because Kobe was with the Lakers for so long, and he had such a different relationship with Jeanie than LeBron clearly does. We have this weird, like, it's funny. People act like the whole like LeBron clutch Lakers turf war has ended. And it's just like,
Well, yeah,
no. It's just that like Pelinka won. Pelinka took a big step forward, and now he like if it ended, it's because Pelinka just like has the cachet organizationally to say to LeBron, no, this is a roster that we're coming back with, and this is how this is going to go. But like you still do see, Cam Reddish is an example of the Lakers kind of helping out Clutch a little bit.
The annual young Clutch rehab signing.
Yeah.
Although actually, if you look at like Nunn, Lonnie Walker, that game plan has not really worked out. But I guess they're gonna keep trying.
Was Trez Clutch?
He was, yeah. Some people push
that
back
really
on me
didn't
calling that a value rehab signing, but it was like a little bit at least. Clearly he didn't have the money on the market that he thought he did, and wanted to go somewhere where he could try and win and stick it to the Clippers. That did not end up increasing his value. So yeah, it's like 3 years in a row the rehab signing is not really paid off.
Yeah.
But
actually, the one that did pay off was Malik, and he wasn't
not
clutch.
Yeah.
So
but, yeah.
But yeah, I just want to,
So they're due. Cam Reddish is going to be great.
This is the one that's going to work. Third time's a charm.
Can
But
I just say,
with the worst of those players too, by the way.
Just so that it doesn't sound like I'm just standing for the Lakers front office here, I understand why people would be upset about the penny pinching or wanting them to sort of, spend as much as possible, no matter what. Under all circumstances, it doesn't matter. I totally understand that viewpoint. I just for me, the only credible basketball thing flaw that I can find in this right now that is not sort of based on a what if, like they can trade these guys for more help later, is the comment that you put up on screen from JD earlier is, and this was something that I pointed out in one of my, many articles for SSR this week. I don't remember which story I was talking about it in, but the veteran center thing, that's a real concern. AD has averaged like 46 games a season for like the last 3 seasons. And right now, if Jackson Hayes, who has been a bad NBA player for most of his career, he'll, like all centers, he will be better next to LeBron, but he has not been good so far. If Jackson Hayes and, again, I see an argument for Tristan Thompson from, having a veteran in the locker room perspective, but to me, that's a 15th guy. That's not a 14th guy that you need to play if AD misses 2 weeks, And so that's the area where I think that maybe you can most critique them we're going to have to see who the veteran center they sign is, or if they go with Castleton. To me, that's a problem. Even though, I liked what I saw from him in one game yesterday, if Jackson Hayes and Colin Castleton are your 2 centers and AD misses any time, that's a problem.
Yeah. And again, they might, while we are recording, or as soon as we finish recording, we might find out that they're bringing back Tristan Thompson, right? Altogether possible. Or if it's Biyombo or Christian Wood or whatever.
Biyombo I feel a little better about, if it's Biyombo or Christian Wood, those are guys they can be real innings eaters in the regular season, but we got to see who they go with.
Yeah, I'm personally, because I still don't think, like I was talking to Aaron about this, about Christian Wood versus Bamba versus Thompson here, right? And he's saying that like you don't really want Christian in the role that he would be in because he would kind of sulk here and there.
I do not think that you want that at all.
But that said, like I still think the Lakers need a little bit more talent on the roster, and he's the most talented option out there right now. So like I personally would probably lean towards
nothing in Christian Wood's career so far, his on or off the court, has indicated to me that he would be just fine being a third big. Potentially even second big.
Yeah. Well, he would be the second. He would be Hayes becomes the third.
Yeah, I mean he threw a fit last year in Dallas just over not starting.
Yeah. And now he's a minimum player, so maybe he learns.
It changes. Reality sometimes reality is the greatest humbling agent sometimes.
Yeah, that's why if I were a Rockets fan, I just again kind of gagged a little bit. But like if I were a Rockets fan, I would be really nervous about Dylan Brooks making $20 million off of last year, right? Because like at some point a guy needs that humbling experience, and like going from like getting a raise and getting a 4-year deal at that raise is like that's not what's going to teach him that like what he did at Memphis was stupid.
So you're going to criticize Genie for not spending, but then you're also going to criticize the Rockets owner for donating $80 million to the victim of a bear attack. I don't understand
Look, I I'm not saying like the Lakers should just spend every penny on all kinds of dumb stuff, right? Like I'm not. All I'm saying is so, and a scenario here that we're talking about that like bridges the gap between what the Lakers did and what I would have wanted them to do would have been bringing Lonnie or Malik back at like $5 million next year,
Yeah.
right? Because then you keep Vincent and you keep this roster together, and you have
and then you have to use the 15th roster spot though, which is further into the repeater tax.
But I don't care.
Yeah.
Again, like if we're talking about like
I get the
getting like checking all the boxes that the Lakers wanted to check, and all of the boxes that people in the comments really like, which again I also like. I want to be clear here. I like the Lakers roster going into next year. It has some stuff that I'm like a little nervous about: the backup bigs, the backup shooting guard spot, like what they do if those guys don't take step forwards. Like I've talked about that already. But for the most part, I think the Lakers start the next season at, I think they're like a 4 seed next year.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And they'll be in a 4 seed that can jump up to 2.
Because we've just seen like they're not going to go all out in the regular season. And at LeBron's age, they should. LeBron should miss any time he needs to miss, rest any games he needs to rest. And AD, AD is not going to play 82 games. So yeah, I think a 4 seed is like a reasonable expectation.
Yeah, but Kilgary, the scenario we're presenting here is that the Lakers will get under the tax. So yes, you're right. They have spent. Now they've spent stupidly, right? Spending all the money that they did on Russell Westbrook. But I I do think that the Lakers can have spent recently, but I can also given what the Lakers do and given the money printing machine that they have in their back office, I would say that we should never be having this conversation about them. This is not something that we should ever be talking about.
If I remember correctly, they were either slightly below or slightly above the Bucks in payroll last year. Just for like context of the whole NBA. Yeah,
and the Milwaukee Bucks, I don't think they have the same kind of like cable deal that the Lakers have.
I'm going to go ahead and guess probably not. But again, the Milwaukee Bucks are a toy for a rich person. This is a business.
Yeah.
And so I get it. You can ask Aaron when he's on the show next, like, does he want them to start selling his seat, like to make up these costs? Like
how much do you love them,
for a
Aaron?
day, package. These are the ways that we can finance a 15th roster spot. I think you should run these ideas by him. You get to hang out, you get to hang out, be part of the entourage. You get to sit in on some front office meetings. Like I think people would pay up for this.
No. Here's the funny one. And this would go viral, and I guarantee you would hit whatever goal that you want to hit. But if somebody started a GoFundMe for like, hey, you can call it the Lonnie Walker Fund. Like if they were like, hey, can we collectively, as a fan base, pay for Lonnie Walker and then write Jeannie a check at the end of it for however much that we raise? I guarantee you people would do that. You just got to make sure that in no way whatsoever can that be tied back to the Lakers, because that's highly illegal.
Okay, all right. So you just gave me some ideas. You and I will get this started in August. We'll be the fund another backup big. Fund.
Yeah. We can call it. Yeah, we can call it the Tristan Thompson Fund or the Mo Bamba Fund. All of that.
We're gonna say Tristan Thompson Memorial Fund.
All right. Let's wrap. I mentioned that I have the Lakers as like a 4 seed. And by the way, a 4 seed that can, like, with health, jump up to a 2.
Not the 4th best team in the West, to be clear.
Yeah,
this
like
is a 4 seed that took the regular season a little easy.
Yeah, and by the way, like the Lakers, LeBron specifically, doesn't take the regular season as seriously as most, for good reason, right? He's
Certainly
39 years old. And so, I would say a 4 seed, avoiding the play-in, having home court advantage in your first round, Yeah, it means that you're probably going up against Denver in the second round, and I don't really look forward to that,
To me, just
especially if
avoid
you're.
the play-in is the goal. With
Yeah,
the star, avoid the play-in and go into the playoffs healthy. I think to me that's the goal. I'm not saying that they can't get to the 4 seed, but at minimum, I think you need to make sure that you secure the 6 seed, and that you're not having to go through that play-in juggernaut, and that you're doing your best to have your stars fresh for the playoffs. Because we
yeah,
saw how good those guys can be when they're out of gas and playing on injury still. I would like to see them fully healthy heading
yeah.
into the postseason, and I think at that point you're right. Like we saw AD on basically like one working foot be the best defensive play, one of the best defensive players I've ever seen. I'd like to see him on 2 working feet. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's
Same
too
goes
much
for
to ask for.
LeBron.
Yeah.
Like people wonder why like LeBron couldn't throw a pee in the ocean in last year's playoffs. It's because he needed surgery on his foot.
Yeah, I think like one of his legs was functionally not working, probably affected the jumper a little bit.
Yeah. So like I and this is kind of where I wanted to end the show. And this is where I'll kind of throw to you because I think you and I are on the same page. I really do think that this team is capable of doing some really cool stuff. I think like Gabe Vincent is going to be a fan favorite. I'm going to call that right now. I'm going to say right now that
he went to a different school in the Big West. That he feasibly could have been a Cal State Fullerton player. It's it's just
well, all right. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. If you could choose between Cal State Fullerton and UCSB, which would you like? Come on, Santa Barbara was such a nicer. Santa Barbara. I'm also a Fullerton alum, but I'm just telling you,
it is an incredible campus.
It is
like
so
literally right on the beach. Look, Gabe, I get it, but I'm still mad at you. I'm
I
gonna
used
be
to
taking
play
that one personally. I need to go look up what I need to go double check what years he played in the Big West and see if I can like slander him if like Cal State Fullerton shut him down in one year or something.
You should do that in the first scrum that you talked
No,
about.
I think I'm just gonna do it online. Like when they announce the signing, I'm gonna be like, this is who y'all gave 11 million a year to, crying emoji, and then it's like a game where he went, like he shot like 30% from the field against Kyle Allman. This is what I need.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to when I was in high school, our school used to travel up to UCSB we used to play 3 like in the summer we would play 3 like out of market tournaments, right? So we would go down USD, the private school down there in San Diego.
Yeah.
They would host one. That was, oh man, you talk about beautiful campuses. Wow.
Yeah.
Every
school in San Diego has an incredible campus.
Jesus. So we would
San
play
Diego State less so, but most of the ones that I toured down there were pretty amazing. Yeah.
But so USD we would play there. That's where I played against Ty Lawson. That was the place
where you put the clamps on.
Where that murder happened. And then UCSB was the other one. That was the second one that we would play in, and that campus was unbelievable. And then the third one we would play in Vegas, and we would play, in varying, campuses and gyms around Vegas. And that was the big one. And that was where we played against Sebastian Telfair and, again, talk about murder. Like the stuff that guy could do with a basketball was just unbelievable. But, having played at UCSB and having walked around that campus and stuff like that, if I had a choice, which I didn't, if I had a choice between Cal State Fullerton and UCSB, I'm pretty sure I would have gone with the latter. But hey, Tusk's up. It helped me, get here where I'm at with Alex Caruso staring at me over my shoulder. And
we thank him for his service. Thank you, Alex.
I can't believe So yeah, I want to wrap here. We have about 10 minutes or so. Highest expectations that you can throw together on this team, lowest expectations, and then where you think they land on that spectrum.
Oh, God. I think highest expectation,
not counting injuries, because injuries if injuries happen,
you factor in highest expectation, worst expectation. Those are highest expectation is basically they were healthy the whole year. Lowest expectation is there were significant injuries, because I think this team with health is going to be pretty. I think this team with reasonable health from LeBron and AD, sort of, again, like the West is not, we saw this last year, the West, there's a lot of teams in the West that do not take the regular season particularly seriously. There's going to be the Grizzlies last year were a regular season juggernaut for a good chunk of it until their franchise star went off the rails, and he's now suspended for 25 games to start the year. Like there's going to be some potential, parity and wiggle room at the top, like I could see them getting as high as the 2 or 3 seed, like health permitting, and if everybody sort of hits the ground running from training camp, I could say, and they have, like they stay healthy, they sign a decent backup big for when AD, has to miss stretches, for maintenance or whatever it may be. I could see them getting up to the 2 or 3 seed, but I could also see them back in the play-in mix again if LeBron has another midseason significant injury.
If he plays like a 40-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. Or if like AD does, if AD has, a long-term injury and is not, rather than being, like around 60-ish games, like if he drops down to, 40, 50-ish games, this team could be in some trouble with the lack of sort of center depth that they have.
Mm-hmm. Where on that spectrum do you have them finishing? If you had to,
the lower seed, the lowest.
No. I'm saying like so you have your highest expectations, your lowest. Like, so for me, my highest is that I think the Lakers can win a championship. Right. That is.
Oh yeah, sorry. I mean, so do I.
Yeah. Like I have them like. They are one of the teams that will start next. Now, it's a lot of teams, and I think this is just like the world that we live in the NBA now, where a lot more teams enter seasons now thinking that they can win a championship. So I think the Lakers are one of those teams. And then on the low end, if Austin takes even a minimal step back, Rui, same goes for him. If Max isn't quite ready, like again, you mentioned injuries. I don't like without even accounting for injuries. If LeBron plays like a 40-year-old in any way, this team could miss the play-in, like it's so jumbled there. I think you're gonna have a whole bunch of teams that win like 42-ish games. Like I think the West is just that insane. It really helps that Portland has to trade Dame and they're gonna tank, and it really helps that the Spurs are probably gonna play Wemby way less than they maybe should, and they will be kind of at the bottom of the standing. So you do have some fodder that you can pick up wins against. But yeah, for the most part, I think that the West is going to be such a dogfight that, a 4 seed, it might come down to like the 3rd or 4th tiebreaker being the separating factor between being the 2 seed and a 7 seed. That's what we saw last year, right? Last year, there were so many tiebreakers at play that the Lakers could have finished anywhere as high as like 5. And, compared to where they did finish, which was like what, 10th? Ninth.
They had, no.
Yeah. Or no, 8th.
They only had to win the one. No, it was 7th. They only had to win the one play-in game.
No.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, they had the 7-8 play-in game.
Oh yeah, because it goes 7, 8, 9, 10. So they were the 7th. Yeah. So, but like still there,
they
like being
finished 9 or 10th. But they did.
Yeah, the difference there between being 5th and 7th was tiebreakers. It was not and so I think we're going to see that again next year in the West. You're going to see it less so in the East because the bottom of the East is still so garbage that it's not going to be as competitive night by night as it will be in the West. But and maybe some teams just get worse. Some teams realize over the course of the season that we don't have it this year. And some teams that we don't think are going to tank do wind up tanking. But yeah, like when I say that the Lakers are, I have them as like a 4 seed, it's taking into account how insane the rest of the conference is going to be. And I don't think again, I said on Twitter, I think this was like a solid leadoff double offseason for the Lakers. They put themselves in position, depending on what the batters behind them do, to really do some cool stuff this year. But also, they didn't hit a homer. A homer to me would have been, keeping Prince and all of the stuff that I have laid out. That to me would have been a homer that allows them, if they had the contracts that they could have had on their books right now, they could be in on Dame. They could be they could be like the 3rd team that takes Hero or something like that. But that isn't really an option now without trading a rotation player. What? Not being in on Dame?
No, not being in on Tyler Hero.
Oh, I mean, he's the example that I used, but there's going to be some.
I don't. There's going to be going to get Dame.
No, I don't think. But they could have been in on it. If you still have all of the potential, if you would have had your highest potential payroll, even staying under the apron, they could have been in that conversation that applies a little bit of pressure. They would have been used as leverage, for example.
Yeah, I disagree. I don't think that they could have even realistically gotten into that bidding. He doesn't have a no trade clause. They don't really have the contracts. I guess maybe you can make it work in several months.
No. If you keep Beasley and you keep Bamba and you sign Russell to the number that he's at, or if you sign him slightly above the number that he's at,
what are you signing and trading him to the Blazers?
Yeah, you sign and trade. Yeah, you sign Russell to the $20 million deal.
That?
Why do they want Tyler Hero?
They clearly don't. I don't.
Well, no, but if
you're going too far. You're going too far with like the Malik Beasley and Bamba contract.
But all I'm saying is that like those and you're right. Like in this specific thing, like they would not probably have been in with a realistic shot at Dame. But like when other players become available over the course of the season, as they always do, the Lakers have a lower chance at picking up that impact player than they would have otherwise, and that's the only point that I'm making.
Arguments for this, and are that do you value the continuity and the chance to have the group together from the start, or do you value like having those guys and potentially flipping them down the line?
Yeah. And again, there's
probably there's maybe higher upside than that, depending on how teams value the 2029 first that the Lakers have. But again, it's hard for me to criticize them too much for it when we don't really know, and it's clear that there was not a market for those guys this summer, and I think they got better anyway.
Yeah. I look again on a scale of 1 to post Alex Caruso livid, I'm like a 3. Okay. I'm really not upset at how, but it is also my job to point out some spots when the Lakers give themselves less options than they could have. That I would not be doing my job if I didn't mention this.
No, I mean, as I've always said, like you are the most honest man in sports journalism.
That's all, to a fault. Keep on costing myself jobs because I'm too damn honest.
No, yeah, it's the facts. The mainstream media doesn't want you to know about the Lakers. That's what Anthony has on here.
I legitimately hope that like still right there is what we get to use as the show's thing.
I think that may be the clip for today.
Yeah. I'm gonna guess that your name is Antoine. Is how I'm gonna pronounce it, right? But this is the point to make, the one that is down below. That what team had a perfect offseason, right?
Agreed. Nuggets got worse. Suns, we'll see.
Yeah, the way that I would say, and I mentioned this in Substack when I wrote about this even back then, is that like we are going to be living in a more mediocre NBA. Like that is just the CBA. That is the intended consequence of the CBA, is that no more super teams. Say what you will, like, yeah, the Suns have a whole bunch of talent at the very top of their roster, but they aren't as loaded as they would have been in the previous CBA because they would have kept Torrey Craig and they would have kept Jock Landale or whatever his name is, and they would have kept Bismack Biyombo, and they would have had more depth behind those three guys.
Yeah.
And in this world, they are going to be a lot more questionable. And by the way, like with the Suns, I could see the Suns being like a 7 seed if they have the wrong injuries.
Yeah, the ball don't top Suns don't have a whole lot of depth behind their stars, and that could get pretty bleak if KD does not play whole seasons anymore. That's just not who he is at this point.
Neither does Beal, for that matter, and like Devin Booker has some questionable injury stuff in his past. So like to the
most
point
of him
that people
have been fluky, so I get we'll see it. But I agree with you on the other two. They're aging and they constantly miss time with injuries.
Yeah, and but like even Booker has had like pulled hammies that cost him like 30 games, and that like that kind of player doesn't. Last year. I think it was hammy.
No, it was a groin. Last year was the groin because I remember being
well,
like,
a year prior I think it was
him a little while.
But so like for everybody here, like the point to tell me to calm down is that the league is mediocre, right? The league itself, like. Worse. Yeah, the Nuggets got worse. The Clippers are still like the Clippers got worse, right? They lost Eric Gordon,
Clippers,
and they're still the Clippers. Yeah, so like the Bucks I think stayed about as good. I think the Celtics got worse. The Heat I think are going to be the real kind of scary when they get Dame. But yeah, I just when it comes
demands to a trade because he's not the best player on the team anymore.
What if Dame
doesn't
like coffee?
He's going to lead the G Leaguers to a scrimmage win over Bam and Dame, and their team, and then he's going to scream at Pat Riley, "This is why you need me," and then demand out.
What if Dame shows up and he like Jimmy hands him a cup of coffee. And he's like, actually, I'm a tea guy. And then
Yeah.
their entire season is derailed.
No, it's over.
You know?
Yeah.
Memphis might have gotten better because they're not going to have Ja for 25 games. Yeah, I like this offseason in its vacuum without taking into account what, the opportunity cost might have been otherwise. And by the way, it isn't done yet. Like we got to see if they do wind up going with Castleton or if they go with Mo or Wood
Don't think it's
or
gonna be Mo.
Tristan or whoever it is. Yeah, Aaron has been pretty steady in saying that he
I
thinks
would
it's
be pretty
Tristan
floored
Thompson.
if it was Mo.
And if by the way, if Tristan Thompson is your third big, he was out of the league last year.
Yeah,
out.
no,
He was
Tristan
on
Thompson
ESPN.
as a third big sounds great on paper because he's a great locker room guy, and like if everybody stays reasonably healthy, like that's a perfect addition. Helps the young guys, kind of maybe helps Jackson Hayes develop a little bit. It's
Like
a
remember
guy
with
in the
Tyson
film room.
Chandler?
He's
Remember
sort
when
of like
Tyson-
your Jared Dudley, basically, where he can
Yeah.
hold the stars accountable, and he's that type of personality. But yeah, if it's Jared Dudley as a locker room presence was great. Jared Dudley having to play for like 2 weeks straight was less great.
Do you want to answer why Mo isn't back?
I have a hard time seeing it.
Do you want to get into why?
No.
I will. The Lakers coaching staff they were not fans of the Mo experience, even before he got hurt. Think of the Lakers under Rob Pelinka as like an extension of Kobe. And ask yourself if Kobe would have enjoyed playing with Mo Bamba. I don't think he would have. He's got too low a motor. He's got a whole bunch of squandered talent right now. Those are the two things that Kobe just absolutely loathed. And I don't think Mo is back. Maybe we're wrong, and they give him a chance to prove that he does have those things. But as it stands right now, I think it's Tristan.
Yeah, I don't see it.
All right, that is going to do it here for this live Independence Day, 4th of July, Captain America as Alex Caruso edition of the Lakers Lounge. Harrison, I think you win the background thing. I don't know. It's close. I want to know what people think. But
No, yeah,
that team...
I wanted to salute our... Oh, sorry, hold on. Let me just, our real Team USA, okay? You gotta love these guys, okay? This is... Team USA... This is what they do for us, okay? And this is, I want to salute our troops, and, I really appreciate, what they do for us every 4 years, keeping American basketball at, the place where it's supposed to be.
Can you make that your avatar on Blue Sky now?
Me raising my hand. I just have a question, I really want to wave and really just appreciate Team USA as they go by.
Yeah.
I just think that all of the players on the screen right now are worthy of our respect, and I appreciate all of them.
We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.